It's time now to document all aspects of the assessment plan. So this is 2.3 of the performance criterion. What we're going to do is open again that assessment tool for John that you started working on earlier. And we're going to go past the purpose and context pages. Here we are. Onto the next section, which is the assessment methods. So you'll see there's many different forms of assessment methods, and this is the most authentic way to teach you, to go straight to the RTO's assessment tool. And if you're not working with Evoke and working for another RTO, it could look quite different. But here at Evoke, we actually give you a lot of different assessment tools you could work with. Now, being an electronic document, you can add to it. You can remove some that you find redundant, but let's work through a lot of the assessment methods that are available in all of the Certificate 4 training resources. So direct observation. This works really well in face-to-face training, obviously. If you're training in the workplace or assessing in the workplace, then you can directly observe real work activities or simulated activities in a learning centre. It does work for e-learning as well, however, because we're using the webcast and I can actually hear you talking with each other with the microphones as you work through some of the assessment simulations. Or, we could possibly open up the cameras as well. There's structured activities. So this is a formative assessment that's occurring during learning. So simulated exercises, activities that are occurring. Role plays, you'd really want to have your learners comfortable with each other. It usually takes quite a bit of confidence to get into role plays, and that might be something you keep on the back burner. You might suggest it to a group, but if you're finding a bit of resistance with adult learners, back off and try something else. Different projects that can be created. You can ask the learners to do some presentations, and that will demonstrate learning. The best way to learn is to teach. So it doesn't have to be just training in the Certificate 4 training and assessment. You could be doing, the forklift licensing. You could be doing first aid or early childhood. But by getting your learners and your candidates to come up and present as trainers themselves, that is the most effective way for their learning and a great way for you to assess them. Activity sheets are fantastic for, especially for auditing purposes, which leads us into the questioning. You can be doing direct verbal questioning, and that's a great form of enabling. So if there's a little bit of a gap, they're not quite across the line and meeting the benchmark, you could close the gap there. For example, we had in the first week a question about legal requirements, and there was one of our students that sort of made more of a vague reference to the learning framework, a quality framework. But what we were after for the benchmark was the specific name of the legislation. So I can follow that up with verbal direct questioning and say, well, look, that's fantastic, but what is the name of the legislation that points to that quality framework that you're mentioning? And that way we can still, attain that level of competency. We're completing questionnaires, and, that's in the form of written questions on a computer. If you're actually using SCORM software, that will automatically link through to the student records. Interview questions are great, like a one-on-one job interview. Self-assessment is excellent as well, and here at Evoke we undergo self-assessment before we have any type of audit with ASQA. So that is an excellent way to be almost sort of ferreting out from your own candidates where they might feel their areas of weakness are. We're creating also a portfolio of evidence, and our questionnaires will go into our portfolio of evidence along with our work samples that we're creating. So this document here for John is actually a work sample. All right, so all of our documents will be collected in our portfolio of evidence. Some other forms might be a journal or a logbook, and certainly later on when we do the delivery, you'll be keeping a reflection journal. So as you're training, you know, you'll be looking at reflections and how you might do something differently the next time, or whether something worked or didn't quite work for your group of learners. So, you know, there's some excellent products you could be using there. Review of products. So this is more your supplementary evidence. This can be used with recognised prior learning. So testimonials from an employer or a colleague. You know, evidence of prior training, so qualifications, statements of attainment, and you would make sure then that that they are the person's own work. You'd make sure that they were validated by a JP and checked against the candidate's identification. Prior achievement sort of ties in with the whole, you know, previous qualifications, and interviews with, you know, the employers. So rather than just a written testimonial, you might jump on the phone and do a quick telephone interview just to reconfirm some information. So there's a whole host of assessment methods you could be tapping into.